also another thing is some of those 700 people were demoted or what they consider offloaded. So even if you're offloaded from the base, you could still be in another Sea Org installation. But that was a very small percentage. I mean, maybe I'd say of those 700, maybe 50 ended up in PAC total. Or they went to PAC and then they got offloaded or went to the RPF and then routed out or escaped from PAC. It's a lot easier to escape from PAC because they don't have barbed wire around the buildings in Los Angeles. You can pretty much walk anywhere you want for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually quite something to show up to muster. At your place, there's all these people missing. At my place, suddenly the estates division, which is the guys who do all the grounds work, or, the galley, the guys making the food or washing the dishes, suddenly that division was packed with all these people. And we're like, Who the fuck are all these people and where'd they come from? Oh, they came from the what? They came from the base? And you couldn't know anything about them. You couldn't know why they were there. You couldn't ask them any questions. And you dare not, like we were told, the HCO, the personnel people were told, they are only to work in estates or they are only to work in, the galley. And these are people who were, in Scientology terms, highly qualified. These were trained auditors. These were trained administrators. These were people who a couple of them had been in Scientology so long, they had directly worked and been trained by L. Ron Hubbard. And
I remember, when we had, there was a gentleman that worked at the Int base. His name was Ken Mortensen.
Yeah.
Ken Mortensen was WDC Gold. So he was the watchdog committee member for all of dissemination and all of the products, all the propaganda pieces that were produced for Scientology. But he was one of the top people in all of Scientology. The guy had been in Scientology, I'm pretty sure, his entire life. He'd been at the base probably a decade before I got there, and maybe even the Sea Org even longer than that. But he was he had bars. He was a decorated Sea Org member. And he was made a folder page at the advanced organization in Los Angeles. So here's a guy who's been in Scientology and in the Sea Org his entire life. He was running thousands, if not hundreds of people and what they did. And when he left the Int base, his job was to go get a folder from somewhere and bring it to somewhere. That's it. Like carry a file folder with paper in it. That was the extent of his duties. So, and we heard about these guys. There was another guy. He was an amazing musician. He was one of the best musicians that I'd ever known personally. He was also an amazing audio technician, and he set up all of the events, the audio for all of the Scientology events for the entire time I knew him, which was at least 15 years. And he was made the canteen IC. His name was Charlie Rush. Mm-hmm. He got in trouble at, I'm pretty sure the event that he got busted at was a Free Winds event in the Caribbean on the cruise ship, the Free Winds. And he got busted from that event. He did something Dave Miscavige didn't like, and he was made the canteen IC in Los Angeles.
That's right.
He was selling cigarettes and candy. That's what this guy, just a few years prior to this, was in a High Winds magazine, which is the Sea Org magazine that comes out once a year, as a 25-year veteran of the Sea Organization. He was in the Sea Org when L. Ron Hubbard was running the Sea Org in the 1960s. He was one of the musicians that was playing with L. Ron Hubbard when they had this band called the Apollo Stars.
Right.
We went to these different islands and they played music on the islands as a way to kind of safe point the islands so that they didn't freak out that Scientology was here. But I mean, that's how long this guy had been. He had dedicated his entire life to the Sea Organization. And when Dave Miscavige got pissed off at him, he went from setting up international events and doing all the audio and playing music to selling cigarettes and candy. And that's the way it is in the Sea Org. As soon as Dave Miscavige is done with you, you just get thrown out like the trash. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, experience. whichever way the wind's blowing could depend on what Miscavige does with you that day. And so we saw a lot of that at the base, where people who were decorated executives were just like, no, I'm done. Get out of here. Just send them to Los Angeles, throw them away. We don't want them anymore. And a lot of these guys, Ken Mortensen, his wife was at the property. She stayed. Charlie Rush, pretty sure his wife, I can't remember. He was married a few times, so I can't remember which wives.
He didn't come to LA with a wife, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I can't remember if he was married when he finally ended up leaving, because I think he was married at least 2 or 3 times. He was actually Linda Rush. I think he was even married to, I want to say he might have been married to Annie Tidman before she was married to Pat Broker.
Wow.
Somebody else will have to verify that. Somebody who knows, because that was before my time.
Okay.
But that was before I got to the base. He was already married to a girl named Linda when I got there, but she escaped in the early 90s. But either way, yeah, it didn't matter if the spouses were there. If you got offloaded from the base, then that was it. Most likely you knew you were never going to see your spouse ever again. You have to get divorced and go marry somebody in PAC. So
yeah, but, and that happened many times. Because I was at the PAC. I'm at the PAC end seeing all this. Ken Morton, just by the way, what you just said about Ken Mortensen is the first time I ever knew that, and I was the guy who was the management guy over the folder guys and the auditing guys and the training guys. I mean, it was so tightly sealed, their history, and they wouldn't say anything. So if you didn't already know who they were, and I was just some guy, I didn't know anything about all this past. I had no idea Ken Mortensen was a WDC. And this is a high level position in the church.
Well, not only that, but I think before he was WDC, he was a post called, they have an area at the base called RAV, which is LRH Audio Visual. So Ron AV, RAV. And the RAV area, it's part of CMO, and they're the ones that take care of all L. Ron Hubbard's personal audio equipment. So all of his high-end tape recorders and players and anything that has to do with AV, the audio visual systems in his mansion at the base that they built 20-some years after he died, that is all taken care of by them. And they have maybe 10 or 15 people that are in RAV. There's mixers in RAV. So if there's an L. Ron Hubbard property, like an AV property that has to do with LRH specifically, then they would mix that, not Gold. And RAV was the quality control over Gold. So when Gold produced something and it had to be checked, before it would go to COB, it would go to RAV first, and RAV would check it. And the person that was over RAV was called RAV, R-A-V. That was the boss of RAV was called RAV. And Ken Mortensen was RAV for a while as well, which is, wow. It's high at the base. It's a very high post because it's basically over all of the things that get produced by Gold are checked by RAV before they go to David Miscavige. So that's still a big post. I'd say it's comparable to WDC. It's another one of those posts where you don't last long. That's how you know what the hot, high posts are at the end base. They're the ones that have a new person on it every few months because Dave will inevitably just get pissed at you and then you go to the RPF or you blow or you become a dishwasher for 5 years or, because you did something Dave didn't like.
Jesus Christ, man.